Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Power Selling Podcast. I'm your host, Danna Crawford, the Power Selling Mom. And today's episode is with a very special friend named Desiree Peoples. So without further ado, Desiree, let's hear from you. Okay, Desiree, why don't you tell us about yourself?
All right. Well, my name is Desiree. I am also known as Good, Great, Fabulous. And
Yes.
I have been reselling off and on since 2007. And I also host a podcast called the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. And I sell mostly jewelry. I do sell a little bit of everything else too. But my main focus is jewelry. And that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. And I absolutely love it. I love reselling. And I'm just having a lot of fun right now. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I was really excited. I know we've known each other for a little while, so I was
Yes.
happy to have you on. I know that you were in news reporting, which I think is just so fascinating.
Oh,
So
yes.
I got to hear more. So what inspired you to transform from a career in news reporting to become a full-time jewelry reseller and digital creator?
Yeah, well, that was probably a transition that happened mostly out of necessity.
Okay.
So I was working in news for over a decade, actually,
Wow.
and I had a son, and he had a lot of health issues when he was younger. Luckily, he's going to be 16 this month, and
Oh,
he's fine. But
yeah.
when he was little, he had severe allergies. He had really bad asthma, and he had some really bad reactions to some medications and stuff. And so he wasn't doing well. And because of that, and because I was getting so burnt out in the corporate job, I actually kind of decided that I was going to quit because the workplace became really toxic. So I had my son being sick, and then the workplace I was at was not pleasant. So I
Oh,
just kind of made the decision that I really want to do something where I have the flexibility to take care of my son when he needs to be taken care of. And I was also just getting really, really tired of the corporate structure, just not being able to do what I needed to do when I needed to do it. And I was a single mom. And so it was really hard to take
yeah.
him to school. And then sometimes, he'd be sick and I'd have to leave in the middle of the day. And that was really hard to manage. And like I said, and I was just getting really unhappy with work. And so I decided, okay, let's try this and make it work. Now I was doing some other things in addition to reselling, because at
Okay.
the time I was doing YouTube, and surprisingly, this was years ago, but I was actually starting to make really good money
Uh-huh.
doing YouTube, that I was able to cover at least my rent. So I knew that I
Wow.
had a little bit of wiggle room in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just decided to go for it. And I haven't looked back. That was in 2019. So, and here we are in
Wow.
2024. Yeah. So going on 5 years. And it's been hard. There's been ups and downs, but it's also been really, really good too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you got to admit the most rewarding part is to be available for your son, to be able to, be available.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then just having more control of my time,
Uh-huh.
is just, I mean, there's nothing like it. And just being able to, like, if he needed me, I didn't have to get permission. I didn't have to worry about how long I was going to be gone. I didn't have to worry about when, rushing back. It
Yeah.
was, it was just almost like it's like a freedom you just didn't know existed.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you know it in your head, but until you actually kind of experience it, it's like, wow, I didn't know it could be this good, or it could be, really making your life fit to your needs instead of you trying to make your life accommodate someone else or something else.
That's right. And you don't have to answer to anyone else.
Yes, yes. It's that. I mean, I think now I'm probably psychologically unemployable, because I don't know if I could go back to somebody telling me what to do, how to do it, where to do it, when to do it. I think that would be really hard. I mean, I guess I could if I had to,
Right.
but I'm trying to do everything in my power to make sure I don't get in that position, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally understand. I obviously I took a position with List Perfectly, and the beauty of it for me is I am still in control of what I do. They don't micromanage, and
Yes.
I still have great freedom. So it's interesting in the workplace when you combine, a real job with your reselling job, because if you have the flexibility, that's key. I think that's really important. But
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you because you couldn't really juggle family, working for a news station, and also reselling. That would be a bit much.
Yeah. And I was doing reselling here and there, like even when I was doing news.
Were you?
Um, yeah, but it wasn't like I was doing it consistently or full time. Just I would find something, list it, and if it sold, I'd ship it out. But it wasn't like I was doing it as like a side hustle or anything. It was just kind
Oh,
of in the background, selling
interesting.
stuff here and there.
Yeah. So what motivated you to focus specifically on jewelry reselling?
Well, again, that was another thing that kind of happened out of necessity, just because I had started out selling everything and anything.
Uh-huh.
And then I realized very quickly that that was hard to manage when I didn't have a lot of space.
Okay.
So, and I was selling my own personal jewelry because I had a lot of jewelry at the time, just my own collection. And then I realized that, jewelry doesn't take up a whole lot of space.
Yeah.
I could focus on that and then, have my house back. Cause at the time I had lived in another place and I didn't have, a huge storage unit. I mean, I had a garage, but it just wasn't working because I had so much stuff that was just random and it was all different sizes. And it was, it was hard to store and it was hard to keep track of. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on jewelry because it's so much easier and it doesn't take up a lot of space. And at the time, that's what was causing me a lot of stress was just the overwhelming amount of stuff. And so I wanted to simplify
Yeah.
my reselling. And so for me, that was how I got into jewelry. Now, I always liked jewelry and I didn't
Okay.
know a lot about it,
Uh-huh.
but I knew I could learn as I go because I actually like it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that started. And it's been working for me ever since. And I absolutely I just
Uh-huh.
love jewelry. I'm just so passionate about it now. It's like it seems like the more I learn, the more I want to learn.
Yeah.
Um, the more I find, the more I want to search. you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I love it. I absolutely love it, and I probably will always do it. I mean, until I can't anymore. I don't see myself stopping anytime
Well, that's
soon.
great. I've had fun watching you on Instagram with your estate sales and garage sales and finding jewelry. And I think that's part of it too, is the hunt.
Oh yeah. And you live in Florida, so I know
Yep,
there's lots of good lots of
there
good
is.
stuff to be found out there.
There is.
Yeah, but finding it's just so thrilling because a lot of times, like at least for me, I think about who owned it, who wore it,
Uh-huh.
what the story was, where they wore it. Like, did they wear it to an event or was this their everyday kind of stuff? Like you start to think about the person who owned it or who wore it before. And sometimes that is just as interesting as the piece itself. I have sold some pieces which are called like morning jewelry. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's morning
Oh yeah.
MOURN. So, which was really popular like years ago when someone passed away, like if it was a husband or a wife, sometimes they'd have to go through a certain period of mourning before they were allowed to like remarry or something like that. And
Hmm.
so during their mourning period, they had specific jewelry that they wore. And so I've been like last year, I was really kind of obsessed with it and I was researching and I was trying to buy it and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just so fascinating how just the way they thought about stuff, depending on what period you're researching or learning about. But yeah, I was just like, wow, this is so fascinating. So women
That
had
is.
to and it was a law, like women had to wear a certain, they could only wear a certain type of jewelry when they were in their mourning period.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of history behind it too. And so sometimes when you research the history, of what correlates to the jewelry or the style or the design,
Mm-hmm.
you learn so much about people and about culture and about civilization, all these things.
Fascinating.
We're in Mercury retrograde. I don't know if you follow that, but
No, what does that mean?
well, if you're into astrology, Mercury retrograde is the time when the planet Mercury actually slows down and it rotates around the sun slower than Earth does. And then what that does astrologically is it makes you have all kinds of technical difficulties, digital stuff, like you have all kinds of hiccups and stuff. So it rules technology. So we're in
Oh,
the retrograde period. So it makes sense that we're having some technical issues.
yeah, and we've got very high winds here. There's extremely high winds happening here. That's so strange. And now I got the chills thinking about Mercury things going on. I don't think it
Yeah, but
will.
if you research it, it started on April 1st.
Oh,
It goes from April 1st to April 25th is Mercury retrograde. If you do, if you're into that kind of stuff, they tell you don't do anything, make major decisions during this time. If you can postpone technical or digital things, then you're better off doing that because things are not in alignment to support that.
are you there?
Yes.
I'm waiting for the Twilight Zone music to come on.
Wait, was I frozen?
Yeah, you were froze for a bit.
Gosh, that's so weird because I don't see me freezing at all, in my little
Yeah.
uh, window, I guess.
Yeah, it
So,
freezes and then it's dead silence. And then all of a sudden you'll finish the sentence.
oh God, okay. Yeah, that's how it's doing you for me.
Okay. But I think that it's still okay. So your podcast, the Jewelry Resellers Podcast, is that the title?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
So it aims to be a resource for other resellers. What inspired you to start this podcast and what topics can listeners expect to learn from it?
I started the podcast because there's a lot of reseller podcasts already out there, but there
Yes.
was none specifically for jewelry. And
Okay.
there really wasn't any resource or education or information specific to jewelry reselling.
Mhm.
Like all of the reselling podcasts that I found were general. They were like how to start selling on eBay, how to source.
That's
It was
right.
stuff like that. So I said, and I had always wanted to do a podcast. I just never knew what I wanted to do it on.
Okay.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast for jewelry resellers. And I didn't know what to expect because that's really super niche. But at the same time, I had watched, because I had done a lot of research just on podcasting in general. And I
Yes.
was really encouraged because a lot of the big podcasters said that sometimes those really super niche, micro niche podcasts actually do very well because there's no other thing out there like it. And so that really encouraged me and inspired me. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And literally from the decision to the launch of the first episode was 2 weeks. And I was able to launch it that quickly because I had used my skills and my experience as a reporter, as
Yep.
a producer, as a social media manager. So I had all of those skills that I was able to apply to launching a podcast. And so I did that at the end of December of 2023. And just this week, I uploaded episode 41. So
Wow.
we're
Very
doing really
impressive.
good.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. Congratulations. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. I absolutely love it.
I think it's a great idea to have a niche like that. So And jewelry is so fascinating. I had a guest recently, Nisha, and she actually does listing parties about jewelry and jewelry education for Liz Perfectly. But what I found it interesting was she would focus on specific parts of jewelry that I never thought
Hmm.
about. And the one that I attended, she was all about the clasps and
Yes,
and
yes.
how I didn't even know there was such, difference in all the clasps and how she could date jewelry based on the clasps, on the closures.
Hmm.
So stuff like that, I think, is really interesting. And even if you attract all types of resellers, because we all love the hunt, most of us sell a random everything and anything. So we can't learn it all. And I think that just some little tidbits of advice here and there really helps. So I appreciate you sharing your wisdom.
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but what I like to do is find people who are the experts and then have them share with me, which I share with
Okay.
everybody else. I know, I guess I'll say I know more than average, but I am in no way an
Okay.
expert. But
Well,
I do bring experts on, so we
okay.
can learn from them together.
Well, I'll introduce you to Nisha. You can.
Oh, as a matter of fact, I do have her coming on my podcast.
What? You
Yes,
snagged her.
yes.
You
Yes, I saw the podcast she did with you. I'm like, oh, I need to talk to her too.
There you go. I'm so happy to
So
help.
yes, yes, she's coming on. I want to say in a couple weeks. So I'm
Oh,
excited.
good.
I can't wait. I can't wait to chat with her.
She's a delight. You'll definitely enjoy her. So I'm glad to hear that. She's
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, I'm
Um,
excited.
and the thing is, like I tell people, my motto has been forever, there's plenty of eBay for us all to be blessed and prosper. So I think that even with selling jewelry, everybody can, learn from selling jewelry. There's a plenty to go around, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is eBay's not the only show in town, right?
Exactly.
So like for me, if I want to sell jewelry, I have many options,
Yeah,
right? And in some ways, eBay may not necessarily be the best platform to sell jewelry, right?
that's true. That's true. I
Yeah,
know
so it
Etsy.
depends.
Have you been doing Etsy?
No, I don't do Etsy. I've never really been interested in Etsy, although I do have a woman who I'll be interviewing next week, I think, and
Okay.
she does Etsy, and I can't
Okay.
wait to talk to her because
Yeah,
maybe talking to her, maybe she might change my mind. I've just never been interested in Etsy, but that doesn't mean that it won't be something I could consider at a later date, right?
that's right.
So,
That's right. And I know you're loving live shows. So please tell me more about your live shows and how we can find you and how does that work?
well, right now I've been doing really well with Poshmark Lives. I do a
Okay.
little bit of whatnot sprinkled in. The thing is I was doing both for a while, but I found that on Poshmark Live, it was much easier for me to get people in my show. On Whatnot, I was struggling with having some momentum over there. And I think it's because I'm a small seller. I don't have a huge following or anything. But on
Hmm.
Poshmark, I've been on that platform for years. And so,
Okay.
I have followers, and not that followers really matter, but it was just so much easier to get people into my shows. So
Oh,
I try to do 3 shows a week on Poshmark, usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. I always pre-schedule them so that way people know when the dates and times are coming up. And I
okay.
absolutely love it. And I sell everything and anything jewelry related. Sometimes it's vintage, sometimes it's modern, sometimes it's bundles, sometimes I'm doing clearance. Like it's whatever.
Wow.
And I just love it. I think because I'm able to kind of use my personality in a way, and I can be a lot more creative. That was the thing that I was really having a hard time with doing eBay because there really is no creative outlet for that. It's
True.
photos, listing, you know, And I'm a creative type. So even
Uh-huh.
when I was doing news, I was able to kind of bring my own creative energy and creative flair to it. But with
Sure.
eBay, you don't really have that. You don't really have a way to be creative with it. And
Sure.
so I think that's why I love live selling so much, is because I can use my personality. I can talk about what I know, and I share the things I know. And even the ladies who come into my show, they teach me things, and we've built a really nice, fun little community. And I feel like it just kind of works with where I'm at in my life right now, in the
Uh-huh.
sense that, I want to be out there. I want to connect. I want to engage. And
Sure.
eBay doesn't really give me that. I mean, yes, you could message somebody, but that's not the same as,
Right.
chatting with them live.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what I've learned about myself, is that I need to do something that allows me to really connect with people, because I do enjoy that. I really do. I love having conversations and sharing and laughing and all those things. So yeah, I'm definitely a live sale girl.
That's great. Now, for those listening in on or watching on YouTube, all of the links to everything she's talked about are going to be below. You can get links to her Poshmark, podcast, YouTube, everything. And those that are tuning in on any podcast player, then how can they find you on Poshmark?
Well, my Poshmark username is Good Great Fab,
Okay, good.
and
And
if
on
you
YouTube?
yeah, if you go to YouTube, the Jewelry Resellers Podcast YouTube channel,
Okay.
or my reselling channel, which is Good Great Fabulous, I have all of my links to everything on both of those channels.
So, how do you stay informed about current trends and market demands in the jewelry industry?
All right, well, that's an easy question for me, because as an ex-news reporter, I love news, right? So for me, I have no problem scrolling through news articles, which I do pretty much every day, just because I love information.
Yeah.
So, and I think because I've worked in news for so long, it's kind of what I do. So that's another thing I like to do with the podcast as well. I like to keep listeners up to date on the newest announcements, trends, updates as it relates to the jewelry industry. And not all of it necessarily applies to reselling.
Hmm.
But what I've learned is, like, the more you know about jewelry, the more advantages you create for yourself when you're sourcing it and selling it.
Yeah.
So even though I may talk about, there was a news story that I talked about not too long ago, where Pandora was like kind of making some changes. And not that everybody sells Pandora jewelry or wants Pandora jewelry, but the thing is sometimes you will have buyers ask you stuff like, oh, do you sell Pandora? Or do you sell this? Or have you
Yeah.
heard about this? And so just by being knowledgeable in that way, you create
Hmm.
more opportunities for yourself to either build relationships with potential clients or buyers,
Sure.
or to just know when you're out sourcing, you're like, oh my gosh, I just heard about this
Yeah.
Pandora bracelet, and look, now I found one. You
Right.
know what I mean? So it's definitely something that's advantageous, and I like to share that as much as I can.
Good. Yeah, that's great. So, what are your future goals for your jewelry reselling business?
Well, the interesting thing is, I've kind of made a decision where I still want to do reselling, but I
Uh-huh.
don't want reselling to be like my main thing. Uh,
Okay.
I'm really loving being a digital content creator. I love YouTube. I love my podcasts. And so my focus is to really grow that and make
Okay.
reselling, scale it back to maybe it's only about 25% of my income, but I want
Okay.
to make money doing other things as a digital content creator. So that's really what my focus is. And so
Okay.
I do plan on always reselling jewelry. However, I don't want it. I don't want to feel like I have to do it because I have to make the money and I have to, do that.
Yes.
But I love it. So I will never stop doing that.
Yeah.
But I think my days of being a full-time reseller are probably numbered because I mean, not that I hate it, but I don't like feeling like I have to do it.
Right.
And I was starting to feel like it's like a grind. And so I don't want to feel that way. I just don't. So,
Well, it's nice when you have options, you know. You,
yes,
you can go
yes,
whichever direction you're led and follow your
yes.
heart.
And I want the freedom. So
Yeah.
like if I wanted to take a month off,
Yep.
I could, and I wouldn't have to worry about listing, shipping, sourcing. You know what I mean? I
That's
want to
right.
be able to have a job. Yeah, I want to have a job that's not dependent on physical products, that's not dependent on me having to list or me having to ship. You know,
Hmm.
because even when you take time off of eBay, you still have to do that. You either have to
Right.
schedule drafts out or the
Yeah.
shipping builds up until you get back and then you got to do it all then. Like I really want a job that doesn't have that.
Right.
So
And you used the key word at the beginning, and that was simplified. You want trying to
yes,
simplify. I
yes,
used to
yes.
have that on post-it notes around my house. Simplify, simplify. And it was to remind me to look for ways to simplify my system because we're always evolving and trying to come up with ways to make things easier and simpler. And I think that's important. So I agree with you on that. All right, Desiree, I appreciate you coming on board and sharing your wisdom with us. And I look forward to following you and watching you grow your channel because I think you're going to go really far with this.
Oh, thank you so much, Danna. Well, you're definitely an inspiration too. So,
Oh,
you're doing an amazing job with your podcast. And I think that, yeah, we're just going to be going up from here together.
that's it. I'll see you at the top.
Yes, yes. It's not crowded.
Wow, that was awesome and it was fun. She is such a joy. I've known her for quite a while, and she actually told me that I was her first mentor when she was getting started with reselling. So it was an honor to hear that. And I'm so proud at how far she's come. My podcast presentations wouldn't be possible without List Perfectly. So special thanks to List Perfectly for providing the tools that resellers need. And with their newly added feature, Poshmark sharing, it's now available in List Perfectly. So learn more by going to listperfectly.com, and you will find all of the tools that you need to be a successful reseller, cross post, cross list, manage your inventory, and lots more. So my name is Danna Crawford. I'm the Power Selling Mom. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, happy online selling. Bye.